So I think the first thing to realize is, when I go out and I travel all over the world, I did 180,000 miles last year, so I have these conversations all the time. The first thing that sort of resonates when I talk to clients, whether they be someone in the business or in IT, is the notion of cloud equals speed. Now, you have to dig into that a little bit, and speed is obviously, as anybody in IT knows, is sort of a relative term. But realizing that the business sees it as speed, I help IT sort of transition that, and it's really time to value. Right? That's really what the business is saying when they're saying the word speed. It's, hey, I can swipe my green credit card, I can make, so-and-so request, and it's there in minutes, hours, or days, where historically working through, the internal IT challenges, it would be weeks or months. So when I talk to clients who are, again, business or technology, or I'm on a panel at a conference, we really have to realize that speed equals time to value. The other thing that's very common in cloud today is flexibility. And now nobody really calls it flexibility, and I'll have to define what I mean by that. But it really means the ability to use capacity on an as-needed, as-requested basis. You could think of this as, historically, I don't know if you go back 5, maybe 10 years, there were some organizations that had such large peak periods, think Christmas time, think tax season, think, quarter end, those kind of things, that they had to buy capacity for those peak periods, and then they just literally set idle, consuming power, and thus was an expense. Now, with the ability to understand and burst and reuse and, maybe shut down, dev test, and move capacity over to those servers for those peak windows, people are getting the flexibility. And that's really the power that cloud is bringing in what we're going to be talking about today. The other thing that's very clear about cloud is, a lot of the historical technology trends, going all the way back, to the client server, to web, to all of that, were really driven out of IT. I really see cloud and the solutions or services that cloud provide, they're being driven for the first time predominantly by the business. The business is asking for it. They're reading the articles in Fortune or the Wall Street Journal. They're out there, talking to their peers and understanding that, hey, I have this, software as a service or, cloud-based application or private cloud, whatever, and it's better, faster, and cheaper. So that's put some of my contacts back on their heels, right? And IT realizes that the environment's changing. Where they used to bring offerings to market, now they're almost being pushed. And let's be frank, some of them are afraid because now they're having to compete with an external, nimble technology provider that doesn't have their legacy environments, right? IT has been built up over decades. And with decades of development, you have legacy systems that hamstring you somewhat. The business in general doesn't appreciate that or realize what's going on there. So, the cloud and anything as a service is something that IT really has to understand is coming. And then lastly, when you really get down to it and you really sort of just do blocking and tackling, cloud is whether it be private, public, hybrid, is better, faster, cheaper. So that's really what I'm seeing out there, and whether they be technology or many times I speak with folks in the business are talking about. So from that, sort of what it is, and we'll talk about hybrid cloud because hybrid cloud is really the combination of private cloud, which for today's conversation is just on-premise, and public being sort of external, whether that be HP or other. So we're going to talk about hybrid. It's the ability to use the right thing for the right need, right? You can think on the left-hand side of the screen there. That could be we'll just say it's a CFO because he looks like he's in a tie. And, think about having the intellectual capital to understand, based on the request or service, whether you're going to source that internal, you're going to go out to workspace, something of that nature for an as a service product, or you're going to be spinning up dev test environments in a fast and a trusted manner. So those are the things that a hybrid environment brings. So you need to have a window, you need to have a catalog or service catalog that has that request, but also has the underlying technology that's open and flexible to use and do the work. And that's what John will show later. We have the piece parts, and he has the intellectual capital to make that happen for you. And again, HP's been the leader in this space, and again helped build the software portfolio that brought all this together. Just a couple of statements. I mean, there's a lot out there. You know, we've been in the automation business for well over 10 years. We've been in the, you know, HP's been around since the Depression. So lots of stories we could have said, but I'll, you know, talk about a few here. We'll start in the upper left. You know, these are all obvious statements, right? 83% of IT leaders say that 25 to 100% of the apps will be composed of hybrid by 2020. That, like I said earlier, the market's changing, right? There's going to be this notion of on-prem and off-prem. We're hoping, right, that there's intellectual capital or reasons that you go that way, right? Whether that be the old notion of what's core versus what's context, as opposed to, hey, something went down and we're making a knee-jerk reaction, which, you know, we've all seen happen. So we're hoping that there's going to be some, you know, some choices and some intelligence built into that to make that happen. The other thing is, you know, you need to be able to manage both physical and virtual, right? There's lots of hypervisors out there. Most people I talk to in their data centers, they have multiple hypervisors. So the ability to manage the physical environment, regardless of whether it be HP or other, or all of the various hypervisor flavors via a single console is extremely powerful. A lot of the vendors out there today are getting more and more siloed, right? They're doing more deeper stuff with theirs and forgetting that clients need to be, you know, clients often pick more than one, so there's no vendor lock-in. So that's something that HP's really focused on, is being open since we were founded. You know, a key to that is, you know, we spend a lot of time creating intellectual capital, and you know, here it says well over 5,000 operations out of the box. You know, the orchestration platform that we have is second to none, and happily to say was a significant crown jewel of an acquisition we made many years ago. But why do people buy us? Why do people even look at us? It's because we save them hard dollars. I have a saying when I'm out in the field speaking with sales reps or partners or distributors, in that, you know, you're either talking about vitamins or you're talking about aspirins. You know, vitamins are the idea if you take this once a day for the rest of your life, you'll live a year longer. Where aspirin is, you have a headache today, you take this, the headache goes away. We offer you automation. We're going to be taking, you know, for every dollar you spend with us, you know, you're going to get $5 back in value. And in some of our closing slides, we'll talk about understanding what that is. But again, it's hard dollar savings. The ability to do it first time right? The ability to understand that it happens the same way every time is critically important, especially when you're taking service levels from weeks and months down to hours and minutes. You got to know it's going to happen the same way. And then finally, it's going to be, you know, better utilization. I talked earlier about the poor clients who had to buy hardware for peak periods. Now what they could do is stop development or repurpose development and test environments and integration and test, you know, training environments if they have to for those peak periods, and then go back to using those when the peak period's over. And finally, you're going to get stuff done a lot faster. Right, again, we're talking going from weeks and months to days and hours, and in some cases minutes. So again, it's about providing the clients hard dollar savings in a world of cloud, which means you have to be open to all technologies, to all integrations. So we'll talk about that today. This is a slide we'll transition back to John, but the idea here is that HP plays in all these markets, and I'll let Mr. Ferner take it from here.
Thanks so much, Mike. Thanks so much for providing a brief overview there. I really liked a couple of your points there on why customers are looking at cloud and looking at the various options. I concur with you that the business is becoming a lot smarter, because now they're actually becoming the end user, the end buyer for some of these public cloud offerings. And so now they understand the SLAs, they understand kind of what they're purchasing. And so it creates an opportunity internally for IT to provide the same type of offering. And so now that black box that was there in the olden days for IT, now it's kind of open. And so now they have an opportunity to really provide the same type of on-demand function. As a part of that, I know that we've seen a lot of growth recently with HP, specifically around their software solutions and supporting private cloud.
Yep.
So can you let us know what's driving that rapid growth that you're seeing, and why the cloud automation software suite is kind of leading in terms of growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things I'm particularly proud of, you know, running the go-to-market strategy for cloud the last couple of years is both years we not only had record growth, but we outgrew the market. You know, simplistically saying, if the market is growing 5% and we grew 10%, that not only says we're outgrowing the market, but we're taking share. And we did both of those things the last couple of years. And when I sort of sit back, and you gave me a day to think about this, I sort of sat back and thought about, well, why have we had that success? And I'd love to say it was just because of, Mike Zuber's a great guy. But it's really three things that I came up with. The first one is vision. Right, when I thought about the vision we had when I started this journey roughly 2.5 years ago, we always knew that it should have been about platform as a service, because that's what companies run on, right? They run on the platform, and I'll define that in a minute. But the reason that vision was important was because everybody else in the market was talking about infrastructure, right? Let me worry about server network storage. Let me go out, provision that in a virtual way, and I'm helping you. That wasn't okay, right? 2.5 years ago, when we sat in a room and we drew that on the board, and frankly, we could have gone that way. We're HP, right? We have the largest number of servers out there, but we realized that our customers buy the infrastructure for some reason. So we took the vision and said, you know what, we want to make it about what runs on the infrastructure. So we obviously wrapped our arms right around infrastructure. We have an offering there. We integrate with all the technology providers there, but we talk about the applications and databases that run on that. And that's what we call platform as a service, and that's really what's seen our growth. We run uphill sometimes because there's so many competitors out there talking about infrastructure that sometimes clients don't realize that they should be looking up and not get lost in the forest by staring at a single tree. But many times when we get a shot to talk about platform, they realize that if they're just going to worry about infrastructure, they're creating a problem somewhere else in the application development team or database team. So that was pretty important. The other one more recently, again, when we sat down 6 months ago or so, and we started to notice that a lot of the hypervisor vendors were getting even more siloed and more sort of, this is my world and where I want to live, is that we were staying open. One of the things that we did is we're developing something that we've now termed Cloud OS. It's out in the market. We announced it in Barcelona at Discover, which I was lucky enough to attend. And Cloud OS is an OpenStack-based solution which really serves as a service delivery platform regardless of hypervisors. So some of the conversations I'm having now are with clients who have data centers where they're spending X amount of money on maintenance streams for perpetual licenses, where now I say, why don't you go ahead and use OpenStack-based solutions or open hypervisors. We're going to plug into the same platform that we offer, and we're going to be able to save you a lot of money. So you can take those dev test licenses, repurpose for production, and you've already pre-bought a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years worth of supply. The second one is flexible options, right? So vision was one, flexible options is two. The ability to have many different on-ramps, right? All of our competitors are sort of one-trick ponies. It's, let us virtualize and go. With what you'll see what John goes through later is there's many on-ramps to cloud, right? Sometimes we go into a cloud meeting and it becomes very clear that, you don't have a cloud problem, you have an automation problem. And we have the number one solution on the market just for automation, right? We're going to do automation as step one. We'll do cloud next. For some folks, it's orchestration, right? They have best-of-breed solutions of technology providers out there, but they need to orchestrate them, right? They have one help desk, one monitoring, one catalog, one version control. They're not talking to each other. So some folks try to implement cloud, right, self-service in that environment. It's only destined to fail. Right, maybe the first step for us there is orchestration. And then the final reason is invested partners, right? I took the time to get on a plane, for example, and fly down to have this conference in person with John because he's an invested partner. He's taken her hard-earned capital, his checkbook, written some sizable checks to invest in cloud, and it's partners like that make us successful because it extends our reach and allows us to go further. So I think that's really why you've seen us not only grow, but outgrow the market and take share, John.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate your insights there. Another thing I'd like to point out from my perspective on what's driving some of that growth is the breadth of the overall solutions. So typically, everyone knows that HP provides all the hardware. You need to have hardware to do cloud. If you want to try bursting, you're going to need to burst your hardware per se. But also you'll see here across traditional, private, managed, and public, HP has their own proprietary operating system on their servers called the Matrix, and that actually includes some of the cloud automation software to assist in managing those servers. In addition to that, you see here at the lower levels of Cloud OS, that OpenStack that Mike was referring to. So this starts to provide that heterogeneous type of capability that HP is able to provide for customers so they don't have to rip and replace. They can orchestrate, automate what they have in their environment for their overall private cloud. The next thing to highlight here is the cloud automation software can assist you in a lot of your data center automation for traditional IT. And you start moving that into a private cloud perspective, then you can get that self-service portal. I can then kind of give customers and the business units the same type of experience that they would have if they wanted to go to a public cloud and selecting what they want to purchase and what type of platform, as Mike mentioned, or application or service that they need to have access to. And at the same time, you can kind of let them know what that's going to cost. Because typically what happens without having that self-service, and by the way, Mike, that was one of the key things that Forrester brought up in their report in selecting HP was that the simple ease of use of the self-service is one of the key drivers in selecting HP as a leader. But by having that self-service portal and having that kind of information to the customer to let them know, here's what the service is, here's what it costs, here's what it gets you, it prevents that kind of server sprawl that's happening out there when people are just applying automation tools and the organization just all of a sudden now has more cost, more expense because they just keep getting more and more requests to spin things up. And so what we're kind of highlighting here is that you can take those cloud automation software across a heterogeneous environment, and it also can support, say, HP's cloud. So HP has its own public cloud service, and so you can tap into that service, and they will be leveraging some of HP's hardware, some of HP's software products, just like what you can do for private cloud. So it's a great story here to highlight how HP is using their solutions to provide to their customers, both from a public cloud as well as a private cloud perspective. Next, I wanted to kind of jump in and just highlight a little bit about HP's cloud automation solutions. These solutions actually originally were helping organizations when they were trying to do a lot of data center automation. And so now they've added in here the cloud service automation capability, which gives you that self-service portal. As I mentioned, that was a key differentiator in terms of ease of use, ease of customers to get in and actually configure and set up and integrate that solution so that you can set up that private cloud function. And so that's that good front-end interface. And then based upon the service that you're looking for, cloud service automation can coordinate that with the different functions that need to be set up. But also at the hub of that can be operations orchestration. One thing that was also mentioned in the Forrester report was the need for orchestration and automation across the platform, as Mike mentioned. So it's not just servers, it's also the databases, the middleware, and the applications. And you need a way to be able to orchestrate that and automate that. And so having that tied into your self-service portal, but then also being tied into your various server automation solutions, such as HP Server Automation, your database. So this is a key differentiator with HP and having the ability to have out-of-the-box, predefined all the policies and procedures to actually provision and set up your databases and your middleware on those servers which you've recently provisioned. And then being able to deploy that information and those solutions so now you have a full, complete application service. You'll notice over here we're highlighting that besides just doing it on on-premise solutions, it can also be done here using HP's Matrix operating system, which is based upon HP's hardware, as well as it supports the OS OpenStack. So it really gives you that really true end-to-end heterogeneous type of solution, which customers are really looking for from a private cloud perspective. And I think that's a key driver too, Mike, of what's driving your guys' growth today.
No question. Absolutely right.